agrees with it. I mean, I was very proud to see this morning I have the highest poll numbers I've ever had. Part of it is because of what we've done on the border. I guess the other part is what we've done on the economy. Joe Biden's policies empowered murderous gangs, human smugglers, child traffickers, drug cartels, and prisoners from all over the world. The previous administration also lost nearly 300,000 children. Think of that. They lost more than 300,000 children, little children, who were trafficked into the United States on the Biden watch, many of whom have been raped, exploited, and abused, and sold. Sold. Nobody talks about that. The fake news doesn't write about it. With many others, young children who are missing or dead. And we found a lot of these children, and we're sending them back, and we've been sending them back to their parents. They said, nobody knows who they are. They said, where do you come from? And they'll give us a country, and we'll find out, and we'll figure it out, and we'll bring them back to their homes. And the mother and father rush to the door, and their tears in their eyes. They can't believe that they're seeing their son or daughter, their little son or daughter again. We've done almost 30,000 of them so far. Any system that results in the mass trafficking of children is inherently evil. Yet that is exactly what the globalist migration agenda has done, and it's what it's all about. In America, those days, as you know, are over. The Trump administration is working, and we are continuing to work to track down the villains that are causing this problem, and also, as I said, to get back the 30,000 we've already returned. Now I think we're going to have another. We're going to find a lot. You're not going to find all of them. 300, more than 300,000. They're lost or they're dead. They're lost or they're dead because of the animals that did this. To protect our citizens, I've also designated multiple savage drug cartels as far as and you see this, and you see it happening right before your eyes. Let's put it this way. People don't like taking big loads of drugs in boats anymore. There aren't too many boats that are traveling on the seas by Venezuela. They tend not to want to travel very quickly anymore. And we've virtually stopped drugs coming into our country by sea. We call them the water drugs. They kill hundreds of thousands of people. I've also designated multiple savage drug cartels as far as foreign terrorist organizations, along with two bloodthirsty transnational gangs, probably the worst gangs anywhere in the world, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua is from Venezuela, by the way. Such organizations torture, maim, mutilate, and murder with impunity. They're the enemies of all humanity. For this reason, we've recently begun using the supreme power of the United States military to destroy Venezuelan terrorists and trafficking networks led by Nicolas Maduro. To every terrorist thug smuggling poisonous drugs into the United States of America, please be warned that we will blow you out of existence. That's what we're doing. We have no choice. Can't let it happen. They're destroying. I believe we lost 300,000 people last year to drugs, 300,000. Fentanyl and other drugs. Each boat that we sink carries drugs that would kill more than 25,000 Americans. We will not let that happen. Energy is another area where the United States is now thriving like never before. We're getting rid of the falsely named renewables. By the way, they're a joke. They don't work. They're too expensive. They're not strong enough to fire up the plants that you need to make your country great. The wind doesn't blow. Those big windmills are so pathetic and so bad, so expensive to operate. And they have to be rebuilt all the time, and they start to rust and rot. Most expensive energy ever conceived, and it's actually energy. You're supposed to make money with energy, not lose money. You lose money, the governments have to subsidize. You can't put them out without massive subsidies. And most of them are built in China, and I give China a lot of credit. They build them, but they have very few wind farms. So why is it that they build them and they send them all over the world, but they barely use them? You know what they use? Coal. They use gas. They use almost anything, but they don't like wind. but they sure as hell like selling the windmills. Europe, on the other hand, has a long way to go, with many countries being on the brink of destruction because of the green energy agenda. And I give a lot of credit to Germany. Germany was being led down a very sick path, both on immigration, by the way, and on energy. They were going green, and they were going bankrupt. And the new leadership came in, and they went back to where they were, with fossil fuel and with nuclear, which is good. It's now safe. You can do it properly. But they went back to where they were, and they opened up a lot of different plants, energy-producing plants, and they're doing well. I give Germany a lot of credit for that. They've said this is a disaster, what's happening. They were going all green. All green is all bankrupt. That's what it represents. And it's not politically correct. I'll be very badly criticized for saying it, but I'm here to tell the truth. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm in New York City. I'm feeling a lot safer. Crime, we're getting crime down. And by the way, speaking of crime, Washington, D.C. was the crime capital of America. Now it's after 12 days, it's a totally safe city. Everyone's going out to dinner. They're going out to restaurants. Your wife can walk down the middle of the street with or without you. Nothing's going to happen. My people have done a fantastic job. And yes, I called in the National Guard, and the National Guard took care of business. And they weren't politically correct, but they took care of business. We got 1,700 career criminals out, brought them back to where they came from, the countries where they came from, or put them in jails. Washington, D.C. is now a totally safe city again, and I welcome you to come. In fact, we'll have dinner together at a local restaurant, and we'll be able to walk. We don't have to go by an armor-plated vehicle. We'll walk right over there from the White House. They've given up their powerful edge, a lot of the countries that we're talking about, in oil and gas, such as essentially closing the great North Sea oil. Oh, the North Sea, I know it so well. Aberdeen was the oil capital of Europe, and there's tremendous oil that hasn't been found in the North Sea. Tremendous oil. And I was with the Prime Minister I respect and like a lot, and I said, you're sitting with the greatest asset. They essentially closed it by making it so highly taxed that no developer, no oil company can go there. They have tremendous oil left, and more importantly, they have tremendous oil that hasn't even been found yet. And what a tremendous asset for the United Kingdom. And I hope the Prime Minister is listening, because I told it to him 3 days in a row. That's all he heard. North Sea oil, North Sea, because I want to see them do well. I want to stop seeing them ruining that beautiful Scottish and English countryside with windmills and massive solar panels that go 7 miles by 7 miles, taking away farmland. But we're not letting this happen in America. In 1982, the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe. He said that it will be irreversible, as any nuclear holocaust would be. This is what they said at the United Nations. What happened? Here we are. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Not happening. You know, it used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world. But then it started getting cooler. So now they could just call it climate change, because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others, often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail. And I'm really good at predicting things, you know. They actually said during the campaign they had a hat, the best-selling hat. Trump was right about everything. And I don't say that in a braggadocious way, but it's true. I've been right about everything. And I'm telling you that if you don't get away from the green energy scam, your country is going to fail. And if you don't stop people that you've never seen before, that you have nothing in common with, your country is going to fail. I'm the President of the United States, but I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice. You want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage. They must take control strongly and immediately of the unmitigated immigration disaster and the fake energy catastrophe before it's too late. The carbon footprint is a hoax made up by people with evil intentions, and they're heading down a path of total destruction. You know, the carbon footprint was a big, big thing a few years ago. I remember hearing about the carbon footprint, and then President Obama would get into Air Force One, a massive Boeing 747, and not a new one, an old one with old engines that spew everything into the atmosphere. He'd talk about the carbon footprint, we must do so. Then he'd get in and he'd fly from Washington to Hawaii to play a round of golf. And then he'd get back onto that big, beautiful plane and he'd fly back and he'd talk about, again, global warming and the carbon footprint. It's a con job. At extreme cost and expense, Europe reduced its own carbon footprint by 37%. Think of that. Congratulations, Europe. Great job. You cost yourself a lot of jobs, a lot of factories closed, but you reduced the carbon footprint by 37%. However, for all of that sacrifice and much more, it's been totally wiped out and then some by a global increase of 54%. Much of it coming from China and other countries that are thriving around China, which now produces more CO2 than all the other developed nations in the world. So all of these countries are working so hard on the carbon footprint, which is nonsense, by the way. It's nonsense. You know, it's interesting. In the United States, we have still radicalized environmentalists, and they want the factories to stop. Everything should stop. No more cows. We don't want cows anymore. I guess they want to kill all the cows. They want to do things that are just unbelievable, and you have it too. But you know, we have a border, strong, and we have a shape, and that shape doesn't just go straight up. That shape is amorphous when it comes to the atmosphere. And if we had the most clean air, and I think we do, we have very clean air. We have the cleanest air we've had in many, many years. But the problem is that other countries, like China, which has air that's a little bit rough, it blows. And no matter what you're doing down here, the air up here tends to get very dirty because it comes in from other countries where their air isn't so clean. And the environmentalists refuse to acknowledge that. Same thing with garbage. In Asia, they dump much of their garbage right into the ocean. And over about a 1 week and 2 week journey, it flows right past Los Angeles. You've seen it. Massive amounts of garbage, almost too much to do anything about, flowing past Los Angeles, past San Francisco, and then somebody will get in trouble because he dropped a cigarette on the beach. The whole thing is crazy. The primary effect of these brutal green energy policies has not been to help the environment, but to redistribute manufacturing and industrial activity from developed countries that follow the insane rules that are put down to polluting countries that break the rules and are making a fortune. They're making a fortune. European electricity bills are now 4 to 5 times more expensive than those in China, and 2 to 3 times higher than the United States. And our bills are coming way down. You probably see that our Gasoline prices are way down. You know, we have an expression, drill,
Nós
baby drill,
reduzimos
and
os
that's what we're
custos
doing.
de
We're gonna be
energia
much lower in a
porque
year from now.
nós faremos
They've come
como
way down over the
expressão,
last year.
vamos fazer
As a
tudo
result,
isso, reduzir os
every
custos de
Air
energia
conditioner
e os
is
custos
like
diminuíram nos Estados Unidos.
very uncommon to see one in some of these
Por
countries
exemplo,
because
se você
the
olhar
electric costs are so high. So while
nos
the U.S. has
países
approximately
faturas de
1,300 heat-related deaths
Nós não
annually, it's a lot.
climatizamos,
Europe loses
mas
more
nós
than
nos Estados Unidos
175,000 people to heat deaths
conseguimos
each year. Because the costs are so
usar
expensive, you
eles
can't
e
turn on an air
evitar
conditioner. What is that all about? That's
aumento
not
da
Europe.
temperatura,
That's not the Europe
porque é
that I
muito
love
caro
and know.
também usar
All
nada
in the
e
name
ninguém
of
usa
pretending to stop the global
tudo isso.
warming hoax. The entire globalist
A
concept of asking successful industrialized nations to inflict
Esse
pain on
agenda
themselves
mundialista não
and
tem nenhum
radically
sentido.
disrupt their entire societies must be rejected
País-
completely and totally, and it must be immediate. That's why in America I withdrew from the fake Paris Climate Accord, where, by the way, America was paying so much more than every country. Others weren't paying. China didn't have to pay until 2030. Russia was given an old standard that was easy to meet, a 1990 standard. But for the United States, we're supposed to pay like $1 trillion. And I said, this is another scam. The fact is, the United States has been taken advantage of by the world for many, many years, but not any longer, as you probably noticed. I unleashed massive energy production and signed historic executive orders to hunt for oil, but we don't have to do much hunting because we have the most oil of any nation anywhere, oil and gas in the world. And if you add coal, we have the most of any nation in the world. Clean, I call it clean, beautiful coal. You can do things today with coal that you couldn't have done 10 years ago, 15 years. So I have a little standing order in the White House. Never use the word coal, only use the words clean, beautiful coal. Sounds much better, doesn't it? But we stand ready to provide any country with abundant, affordable energy supplies if you need them, when most of you do. We're proudly exporting energy all over the world. We're now the largest exporter. In the United States, we want trade and robust commerce with all nations, everybody. We want to help nations. We're going to help nations. But it must also be fair and reciprocal. The challenge with trade is much the same with climate. The countries that followed the rules, all their factories have been plundered. It's really sad to watch. They've been broken. They've been broken by countries that broke the rules. That's why the United States is now applying tariffs to other countries, and much as these tariffs were for many years applied to us, uncontrollably applied to us. We've used tariffs as a defense mechanism under the Trump administration, including my first term, where hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs were taken in. And by the way, we had the lowest inflation, and now we have very low inflation. The only thing different is that we have hundreds of billions of dollars flowing into our country. But this is how we will ensure that the system works for everyone and is sustainable into the future. We're also using tariffs to defend our sovereignty and security throughout the world, including against nations that have taken advantage of former U.S. administrations for decades, including the most corrupt, incompetent administration in history, the sleepy Joe Biden administration. Brazil now faces major tariffs in response to its unprecedented efforts to interfere in the rights and freedoms of our American citizens and others, with censorship, repression, weaponization, judicial corruption, and targeting of political critics in the United States. I have a little problem saying this because I must tell you, I was walking in and the leader of Brazil was walking out. We saw him and I saw him, he saw me, and we embraced. And then I'm saying, can you believe I'm going to be saying this in just 2 minutes? But we actually agreed that we would meet next week. We didn't have much time to talk, like about 20 seconds. They were in retrospect, I'm glad I waited because this thing didn't work out too well. But we did talk, we had a good talk, and we agreed to meet next week, if that's of interest. But he seemed like a very nice man, actually. He liked me, I liked him. But if you, and I only do business with people I like. When I don't like them, I don't like them. But we had, at least for about 39 seconds, we had excellent chemistry. It's a good sign. But also in the past, Brazil, can you believe this, unfairly tariffed our nation, but now because of our tariffs, we are hitting them back, and we're hitting them back very hard. As president, I will always defend our national sovereignty and the rights of American citizens. So I'm very sorry to say this, that Brazil is doing poorly and will continue to do poorly. They can only do well when they're working with us. Without us, they will fail, just as others have failed. It's true. Next year, the United States will celebrate the 250th anniversary of our glorious independence, a testament to enduring power and American freedom and spirit. We will also be proudly hosting the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and shortly thereafter, the 2028 Olympics, which is going to be very exciting. I hope you all come. I hope that countless people from all over the globe will take part of these will be great celebrations of liberty and human achievement, and that together we all can rejoice in the miracles of history that began in July 4th, 1776, when we founded the light to all nations. And it's something really that an amazing thing came out of that date. It's called the United States of America. In honor of this momentous anniversary, I hope that all countries who find inspiration in our example will join us in renewing our commitment, values, and those values really that we hold so dear together. Let us defend free speech and free expression. Let us protect religious liberty, including for the most persecuted religion on the planet today. It's called Christianity. And let us safeguard our sovereignty and cherish qualities that have made each of our nations so special, incredible, and extraordinary. In closing, I just want to repeat that immigration and the high cost of so-called green renewable energy is destroying a large part of the free world and a large part of our planet. Countries that cherish freedom are fading fast because of their policies on these two subjects. You need strong borders and traditional energy sources if you are going to be great again. Whether you have come from north or south, east or west, near or far, every leader in this beautiful hall today represents a rich culture, a noble history, and a proud heritage that makes each nation majestic and unique, unlike anything else in human history or any other place on the face of the earth. From London to Lima, from Rome to Athens, from Paris to Seoul, from Cairo to Tokyo and Amsterdam to right here in New York City, we stand on the shoulders of the leaders and legends, generals and giants, heroes and titans who won and built our beloved nations, all of our nations, with their own courage, strength, spirit, and skill. Our ancestors climbed mountains, conquered oceans, crossed deserts, and trekked over wide open plains. They charged into thunderous battles, plunged into grave dangers, and they were soldiers and farmers and workers and warriors and explorers and patriots. They built towns into cities, tribes into kingdoms, ideas into industries, and small islands into mighty empires. You're a part of all of that. They were champions for their people who never gave up and who never, ever gave in. Their values defined our national identities. Their visions forged our magnificent destiny. Everybody in this room is a part of it in your own way. Each of us inherits the deeds and the myths, the triumphs, the legacies of our own heroes and founders who so bravely showed us the way. Our ancestors gave everything for homelands that they defended with pride, with sweat, with blood, with life, and with death. Now the righteous task of protecting the nations that they built belongs to each and every one of us. So together, let us uphold our sacred duty to our people and to our citizens. Let us protect their borders, ensure their safety, preserve their cultures, treasure, and traditions, and fight for their precious dreams and their cherished freedoms. And in friendship and really a beautiful vision, let us all work together to build a bright, beautiful planet, a planet that we all share, a planet of peace and a world that is richer, better, and more beautiful than ever before. That can happen. It will happen. It will happen, and I hope it can happen and start right now, right at this moment. We'll turn it around. We're going to make our countries better, safer, more beautiful. We're going to take care of our people. Thank you very much. It's been an honor. God bless the nations of the world. Thank you very much. Bye.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the United States,
please be seated? Please be seated.
Excellencies, could you please take your seats in due respect to the next speakers? The second row, could you please take your seat right now? Please take a seat now. With due respect to the next speakers, I would kindly ask to gentlemen in the left row, please take your seats. We will continue. Excellencies, as we are receiving queries, I would like to assure you that don't worry, the UN teleprompters are working perfectly. And by this technical note, I would like to call on the next speaker. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Prabowo Subianto, President of the Republic of Indonesia. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
His Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Her Excellency Madame Annalena Baerbock, President of the United Nations General Assembly, His Excellency Mr. Moses Abelian, Under-Secretary General for General Assembly and Management, Excellencies, Heads of States, Heads of Governments, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor for me to stand in this august General Assembly Hall among leaders and representatives who represent almost all of humanity. We differ in race, religion, and nationality, yet we gather together today as one human family. We are here first and foremost as fellow human beings, each created equal, endowed with unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The words of the United Nations Declaration of Independence have inspired democratic movements across continents, including the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, the Mexican Revolution, the Chinese Revolution, and Indonesia's own struggle and journey to freedom. It also gave birth to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations in 1948. All men are created equal was the creed that opened the way to unprecedented global prosperity and dignity. And yet, in our own era of scientific and technological triumphs, an era capable of ending hunger, poverty, and environmental ruin, we also continue to face today grave dangers, challenges, and uncertainties. Human folly, fueled by fear, racism, hatred, oppression, and apartheid, threatens our common future. My country knows this pain. For centuries, Indonesians lived under colonial domination, oppression, and slavery. We were treated less than dogs in our own homeland. We Indonesians know what it means to be denied justice and what it means to live in apartheid, to live in poverty, and to be denied equal opportunity. We also knew what solidarity can do. In our struggle for independence, in our fight to overcome hunger, disease, and poverty, the United Nations stood with Indonesia and gave us vital assistance. Decisions made here based on human solidarity by the Security Council and this Assembly gave Indonesia independence, international legitimacy, opened doors, and supported our early development through the efforts of the United Nations Children Fund, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, the World Health Organization, and many, many other United Nations institutions. And because of that, Indonesia today stands on the cusp of shared prosperity and greater equality and dignity. Madam President, Excellencies, our world today is driven by conflict, injustice, and deepening uncertainty. Every day we witness suffering, genocide, and blatant disregard for international law and human decency. In the face of these challenges, we must not give up. As the United Nations Secretary General said, we cannot give up. We cannot surrender our hopes or our ideals. We must draw closer, not drift apart. Together we must strive to achieve our hopes, our dreams. The United Nations was born from the ashes of the Second World War that claimed scores of millions of lives. It was created to secure peace, security, justice, and freedom for all. We remain committed to internationalism, to multilateralism, and to every effort that strengthens this great institution. Today, Indonesia is nearer than ever before to meeting the sustainable development goals of ending extreme poverty and hunger. Because years ago, this very chamber chose to listen and uphold social and economic justice. We will never forget. And today, we must never be silent while Palestinians are denied that same justice and legitimacy in this very hall. Excellencies, Thucydides warned, the strong do what they can, the weak suffer what they must. We must reject this doctrine. The United Nations exist to reject this doctrine. We must stand for all, the strong and the weak. Might cannot be right. Right must be right. Indonesia today is one of the largest contributors to United Peacekeeping Forces. We believe in the United Nations. We will continue to serve where peace needs guardians, not with just words, but with boots on the ground. If and when the United Nations Security Council and this great assembly decide Indonesia is prepared to deploy 20,000 or even more of our sons and daughters to help secure peace in Gaza or elsewhere, in Ukraine, in Sudan, in Libya, everywhere when the peace needs to be enforced, peace needs to be guarded, we are ready. We will take our share of the burden, not only with our sons and daughters, we are also willing to contribute financially to support the great mission to achieve peace by the United Nations. Madam President, Excellencies, I propose to this Assembly a message of hope and optimism, grounded in action and execution. Today, we heard the speech of Madam President, the President of the United Nations General Assembly. Yes, it is true what she said. Without the International Civil Aviation Organization, will we be here today? Will we sit in this great hall? Without the United Nations, we cannot be safe. No country can feel secure. We need the United Nations, and Indonesia will continue to support the United Nations. Even though we still struggle, but we know the world needs a strong United Nations. The world's population is growing. Our planet is under strain. Food, energy, and water insecurity haunt many nations. We choose to answer these challenges directly at home and to help abroad wherever we can. This year, Indonesia recorded the highest rice production and grain reserves in our history. We are now self-sufficient in rice, and we are starting now to export rice to other nations in need, including providing rice for Palestine. We are building resilient food supply chains, strengthening farmer productivity, investing in climate-smart agriculture to ensure food security for our children and for the children of the world. We are confident in a few years' time, Indonesia will be the granary of the world. As the world's largest island state, we testify before you that we are already experiencing the direct consequences of climate change, particularly the threat of rising sea levels. The sea level on the north coast of our capital city is increasing by 5 centimeters every year. Can you imagine in 10 years? Can you imagine in 20 years? For this, we are forced to build a giant seawall, 480 kilometers in length. It will take us maybe 20 years, but we have no choice. We have to start now. Therefore, we choose to confront climate change not by slogans, but by immediate steps. We are committed to meeting our 2015 Paris Agreement obligations. We aim to achieve net zero emission by 2060, and we are very confident we can achieve net zero emission much earlier. We aim to reforest more than 12 million hectares of degraded forest, to reduce forest degradation, to empower local communities with quality green jobs for the future. Indonesia is shifting decisively from fossil fuel-based development towards renewable-based development. From next year, most of our additional power generation capacity will come from renewables. Our goal is clear: to lift all of our citizens out of poverty and make Indonesia a hub for solutions to food, energy, and water security. Madam President, Excellencies, we live in a time when hatred and violence can seem to be the loudest voices. But beneath this loud noise lies a quieter truth, that every person longs to be safe, to be respected, to be loved, and to leave a better world to their children. Our children are watching. They are learning leadership not from textbook, but from our choices. Today, still, a catastrophic situation in Gaza is unfolding before our eyes. At this very moment, the innocent are crying for help, are crying to be saved. Who will save them? Who will save the innocent? Who will save the old and women? Old and women. Millions are facing danger at danger at this very moment. As we sit here, they are facing trauma. They are facing irreparable damage to their bodies. They are dying of starvation. Can we remain silent? Will there be no answer to their screams? Will we teach them that the human family can rise to the challenge? Madam President, we must act now. Many speakers have said that. We must stand for a multilateral order where peace, prosperity, and progress are not the privilege of a few, but the right of all. With a strong United Nations, we can build a world where the weak do not suffer what they must, but live the justice that they deserve. Let us continue humanity's great journey of ideals, the selfless aspirations that created the United Nations. Let us use science to uplift, not use science to destroy. Let rising nations help others to lift themselves. I am convinced that the leaders of the great world civilizations of the West, of the East, of the North, of the South, leaders of America, Europe, of India, China, the Islamic world, the whole world, I am convinced they will rise to their role demanded by history. We are all hopeful that the leaders of the world will show great statesmanship, great wisdom, restraint, humility, overcome hate, overcome suspicion. Madam President, distinguished delegates, we are greatly heartened by the events of the last few days, where significant leading countries of the world have chosen to side with history, to choose the right side of history, the path of the moral high ground, the path of rectitude, the path of justice, the path of humanity, to shun hatred, to overcome suspicion, and to avoid the use of violence. The use of violence will beget violence. No one country can bully the whole community of the human family. We may be weak individually, but the sense of oppression, the sense of injustice has proven in the history of mankind that this sense of injustice, this sense of oppression will unite into a strong force that will overcome this oppression, that will overcome this injustice. To close, I would like to reiterate again Indonesia's complete support for the two-state solution in Palestine. We must have an independent Palestine, but we must also recognize, we must also respect, and we must also guarantee the safety and security of Israel. Only then we can have real peace, and no longer hate and no longer suspicion. The only solution is this two-state solution. Two descendants of Abraham must live in reconciliation, peace, and harmony. Arabs, Jews, Muslims, Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, all religions, we must live as one human family. Indonesia is committed to being part of making this vision a reality. Is this a dream? Maybe, but this is the beautiful dream that we must work together towards. Let us work towards this noble goal. Let us continue humanity's journey of hope, a journey started by our forefathers, a journey that we must complete. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om. Namo Buddhaya. Thank you very much. May God bless us all. May peace be upon us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Indonesia. The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Recep Tayyip Erdogan, President of the Republic of Turkey. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Sayın Başında Filistin'in giderek artan sayıda ülke tarafından tanındığı bir dönemde Filistin Devlet Başkanı Sayın Mahmud Abbas'ın bugün bizzat aramızda olamayışından duyduğum üzüntüyü ifade etmek istiyorum. Biz bugün bu kürsüde kendi vatandaşlarımızla birlikte sesi kısılmak istenen Filistin halkına tercüman olmak için de bulunuyoruz. Filistin devletini tanıyacağını açıklayan tüm ülkelere teşekkür ediyor. Henüz bu kararı almayan devletleri ise bir an önce harekete geçmeye çağırıyorum. Sayın Başkan, değerli 80 yıl önce San Francisco'da imzalandı ve 24 Ekim 1945'te yürürlüğe girdi. Birleşmiş Milletler Kuruluş Şartı'nın ilk maddesinin ilk kelimelerini burada tekrar hatırlatmak isterim. Birleşmiş Milletler'in amacı uluslararası barış ve güvenliği korumaktır. Evet, bizler bu salonda Birleşmiş Milletler'in 80. yaşını kutlarken dünyanın birçok bölgesinde kuruluş şartının ilk maddesinin ilk kelimelerine gölge düşürecek vahim hadiseler yaşanıyor. Özellikle Gazze'de gözlerimizin önünde 700 günü aşkın bir süredir soykırım devam ediyor. Biz toplantı halindeyken dahi Gazze'de şu anda Israel is currently massacring civilians in Gaza. Ölen sivillerin sayısı
The number of civilian
65
casualties
bini
in
geçti.
Gaza has surpassed
Enkaz altında
65,000.
kaç cenazenin olduğu
Unfortunately,
henüz
the number of
bilinmiyor.
people who are still trapped under the
Ölenlerin
rubble
20
is
binden
not yet
fazlası
known.
çocuk.
And more than 20,000
İsrail
of those who
tarafından
died
Gazze'de
were children.
son 23 aydır
For the last
her
23
saat
months,
evet,
a
her
child
saat
has been
bir
murdered by
çocuk
Israel in
acımasızca
Gaza every
hayattan
hour. Yes,
kopartılıyor.
every hour.
Bunlar sayı değil dostlar.
These are not just figures,
Hepsi birer
dear
can,
friends. All
birer
of these, each one
masum
of
insan.
these is a
Şu anda
person, a
sadece
human being,
silahlarla
innocent
değil,
people. People are now being
açlık
killed not with
silahıyla da
weapons,
insanlar
but with the
öldürülüyor.
weapon of starvation.
21. yüzyılda medeni
In the
dünyanın
21st
bakışları
century,
altında
under the gaze of the
146
civilized
çocuk,
world, 428
428
people
kişi
died of starvation.
açlıktan
Out of
hayatını
those
kaybetti
428,
ve sayı her geçen gün
146
artıyor.
were children.
Şimdi
And
size
this number is increasing
Gazze'deki
every day.
günlük hayatı anlatan
Now,
bir fotoğraf
I will show you
göstereceğim.
a photo which is a picture from daily life in
Birinci
Gaza.
fotoğraf
The first photo,
gördüğünüz gibi
as you see,
ellerinde
these are
leğenli
people.
kadınlar.
These are women
Lütfen
with
hepimiz
these cups that they are
elimizi
holding in their
vicdanımıza koyup
hands, cups
cevap
and
verin.
buckets. Just
2025
feel your
yılında
conscience and answer
böyle
the
bir
following
gaddalığın
question.
makul bir sebebi
Can we possibly
olabilir
have a
mi?
reasonable reason
Fakat
for this
insanlık
brutality
adına
in
bu utanç
2025?
manzarası Gazze'de
This
23 aydır
shameful
her
picture
gün
in Gaza
tekrar
has been
ediyor.
unfolding and is being repeated
365
every day
kilometre
for
kare içinde
23
yaşayan
months now.
2,5 milyon
And
Gazze'li
there are
her
2.5
gün
million
yerinden
Gazans
ediliyor.
who live
Her
in
gün bir başka
365
bölgeye
square
göçe
kilometers, and every day
zorlanıyor.
what happens
Gazze'nin
is
sağlık
they are
altyapısı tamamen
being dragged from one
çökmüş
place
durumda.
to another. The
Doktorlar
healthcare
öldürüldü
infrastructure
ya
of
da
Gaza
gözaltına
is
alındı.
completely collapsed. Doctor's
Ambulans
heart,
söylüyorum.
with my heart
Henüz
bleeding here,
2-3
I'm telling you,
yaşındaki elleri,
innocent
kolları,
little ones,
bacakları
just
olmayan
2 or 3 years
masum
old,
yavrucuklar
without hands,
bugün
arms
maalesef
or legs,
Gazze'nin
have
olağan
become,
fotoğrafı haline
unfortunately,
gelmiştir.
a common sight to see in Gaza.
Buna hangi
This
vicdan dayanır?
What kind of a human conscience can
Hangi vicdan
possibly
buna
bear this?
Sessiz kalabilir.
Possibly. How
Çocukların
can
açlıktan,
one stay silent vis-a-vis this?
ilaçsızlıktan öldüğü bir dünyada
In a world where
huzur olur
children
mu?
are dying of starvation and lack of
Hepimiz
medication, can we possibly
anne
have
babayız.
calm and peace? We all are
üzerine
parents.
titrediğimiz
We have
evlatlarımız,
children
torunlarımız
or
var.
grandchildren
Burada,
who we dearly cherish.
Amerika'da,
Here,
Avrupa'da,
say in
dünyanın her
America
yerinde
or in Europe, anywhere
bir
in the
çocuğun
world,
eline
when a
küçük
small
bir
rose
diken
thorn
batsa
hurts
anne
a child's
babaların
hand,
yüreği yanıyor.
the hearts of
Ama
parents
Gazze'de
break. But in
çocukların
Gaza,
elleri,
children's
kolları,
hands, arms
bacakları
and legs are
anestezi
being amputated
yapılmadan
without
ampute ediliyor.
anesthesia.
Kimse kusura bakmasın ama
Now, I'm extremely
bu
sorry to say,
insanlığın
but this
dip noktası.
represents the lowest point of
İnsanlık
humanity.
tarihi son bir asırda
Human
böyle
history
bir vahşet
has not witnessed
görmemiş.
such bloodshed within the last century.
Her şey gözümüzün
All
önünde cereyan
of this
ediyor.
is happening before our very eyes.
Gazze'deki soykırım,
The genocide
medya,
in Gaza
sosyal
is
medya
being
aracılığıyla
broadcast
her an canlı olarak
live every
yayınlanıyor.
moment through the
İsrail,
media and social media.
Şu ana kadar Gazze'de
So far,
ulusal
Israel
ve
has
uluslararası
deliberately
basında
killed
çalışan
250
250
journalists
gazeteciyi
working in national and
kasıtlı
international
olarak
media in
öldürdü.
Gaza.
Gazze'ye tüm girişleri yasakladı.
And
Ama yine de
they
soykırımı
have closed
gizleyemedi.
all the entrance
Filistin
into Gaza,
topraklarında
but they still have not
devam
been able to
eden
cover up the genocide.
soykırıma her fırsatta
I
dikkatleri çeken
wholeheartedly support
Genel
Secretary General
Sekreter
Guterres
Sayın
because he
Guterres'i
consistently draws
gönülden
attention to the
destekliyorum.
ongoing
Cesareti için
genocide
kendisini
in Palestinian
bir kez
territories,
daha
and I would like
tebrik
to once
ediyorum.
again congratulate him for his courage.
Ancak
But
Birleşmiş Milletler
the
Gazze'de
United
kendi
Nations has
çalışanlarını
not
dahi
even been able to
maalesef
protect its own
koruyamamış.
personnel in Gaza.
Gazze'de insanlara yardım için
Unfortunately.
koşturan 500
In
kişi
Gaza, 500
öldürülmüştür.
people rushing to help others
Ve
have
bunların
been killed.
326'sı
Out of those 500,
Birleşmiş Milletler personeli.
326 were
Sayın
UN
Başkan,
staff members.
Değerli üyeler,
Esteemed President,
bakınız
distinguished members,
soykırım tıpkı
Now,
Holocaust gibi insanların toplu halde iması
genocide,
için
like the
kullanılan
Holocaust, is a
utanç
shameful
verici,
concept which
insanlık
refers
dışı
to the mass
barbarca
extermination
bir kavramdır.
of people. It's a
Oysa
barbaric
bugün
concept.
Gazze'de
Today,
sadece insanlar öldürülmüyor.
It's not only people who are being killed in
Gazze'de
Gaza,
hayvanlar
mind you.
hedef alınarak
Animals
öldürülüyor.
are being targeted and
Gazze'de
killed in Gaza.
tarım alanları, bahçeler,
In Gaza,
ağaçlar,
agricultural land,
otlar,
gardens,
Gazze'de
trees, grass,
asırlık zeytin ağaçları
century-old olive
yok
trees
ediliyor.
are being destroyed.
Gazze'de
In Gaza,
sular yok ediliyor.
water supplies are being
Kirletiliyor.
destroyed and
Gazze'de
polluted.
binalar, evler,
Buildings,
kütüphaneler,
homes,
hastaneler,
libraries,
okullar,
hospitals,
camiler,
schools, mosques,
kiliseler,
churches
tarihi yapılar
and historical
bilinçli bir
structures in
şekilde
Gaza are being
yıkılıyor.
deliberately destroyed.
Gazze'nin toprağı insan içinde,
The soil
hayvan
of Gaza
içinde,
is being
bitki
rendered
içinde
useless for humans,
artık işe
for animals
yaramaz
and for
hale
plants.
getiriliyor. İşte sizlere
So
bir başka fotoğraf daha.
now let me show you yet another
Şimdi size
photo.
soruyorum.
And let me ask you
Elimdeki
here.
şu fotoğrafın
Look at this
güvenlik arayışıyla ne ilgisi var?
What could this photo here
Bunun
possibly
adı
have to do with security
canlıya
concerns?
düşmanlık. Hayata
This is being
düşmanlık değil.
against,
Bu kürsüden
life.
açık açık ifade ediyorum.
don't you think?
Gazze'de
Let
bir
me
savaş
state
yok.
this openly from this podium.
Gazze'de
There is
iki
no war
taraftan
in Gaza.
söz edilemez.
We cannot possibly talk about the
Gazze'de bir
presence
yanda
of two sides in
elinde en
Gaza.
modern,
Because
en
in
öldürücü
Gaza, on
silahlar
one
olan
side, there is a
düzenli
regular
ordu,
army
diğer
with the most
tarafta ise
modern, most lethal
masum
weapons.
siviller,
And on the other
masum
hand, there are
çocuklar var.
innocent civilians,
Bu
innocent
terörle
children.
mücadele değildir.
This is not fight
Bu
against
7 Ekim
terrorism.
olayı öne sürülerek yürütülen bir işgal, tehcir,
This is an occupation,
sürgün,
deportation,
soykırım, daha
exile,
doğrusu
genocide,
bir toplu
and
kıyım
life
politikasıdır.
destruction, mass destruction
Bugün
policy
Gazze
carried out
Hamas
by invoking the
bahanesiyle
events of
yok
October the
edilirken
7th.
eş
Today,
zamanlı
while
olarak
Gaza is being destroyed
Hamas'ın
under the
yönetimde
pretext of
olmadığı
Hamas,
Batı Şeria'da
concurrently,
adım adım
simultaneously,
işgal
the
edilmekte,
West Bank, where Hamas
infazlarla
is not in
masum
power,
siviller
is also being occupied
katledilmektedir.
step by step,
Üstelik
and innocent
İsrail,
civilians are being
Gazze
massacred through
ve Batı
executions.
Şeria ile
Moreover,
sınırlı kalmıyor.
Israel is not limiting
Suriye'ye,
itself to Gaza and the
İran'a,
West Bank only.
Yemen'e,
By launching attacks
Lübnan'a
on Syria,
saldırılar
on
düzenleyerek
Iran, Yemen, and
bölge barışını da
Lebanon, Israel
tehdit ediyor.
is also threatening
son
regional peace.
Arabulucu
Just
Katar'da
recently, an Israeli
ateşkes
attack
müzakereleri
took place
için
against a
toplantı
delegation,
yapan heyete İsrail
meeting in
saldırısı
Qatar for
gerçekleşmiştir.
ceasefire negotiations.
Katar'a yönelik saldırı göstermiştir
The
ki
attack on Qatar
İsrail
has also
yönetimi
shown that
tamamen
the Israeli
kontrolü
leadership is now
kaybetmiştir.
completely out of control.
Netanyahu'nun barış yapmaya da rehineleri
Netanyahu
kurtarmaya da niyetinin
is
olmadığı
not obviously
bir kez daha
interested in forging
anlaşılmıştır.
peace or releasing
Sadece
the
komşuları değil,
hostages.
Orta Doğu'daki
Not only
tüm ülkeler
Israel's neighbors,
İsrail
but all
hükümetinin
countries in the Middle
pervasız
East are
tehditlerine
subject to the Israeli
muhatap oluyor.
government's reckless
Şunun da
threats.
farkına varalım.
And we must realize,
İsrail'in artan
following.
saldırganlığı sebebiyle Avrupa başta
due to
olmak
the
üzere
increasing
Batı'da
aggression of
2.
Israel
Dünya Savaşı sonrası
in Europe and
ortaya
the West
çıkan
in
değerler
general,
de
the values
çok
that
ağır
emerged after
yara
the Second
almıştır.
World War have been
En temel
eroded.
insan hakları, ifade
The
özgürlüğü,
most fundamental human
basın
rights,
özgürlüğü,
such as freedom of
gösteri ve
expression,
protesto
freedom of
özgürlüğü,
the press,
kadın
freedom of
hakları,
assembly and protest,
çocuk
women's
hakları,
rights, children's
demokrasi,
rights, democracy,
eşitlik,
equality,
adalet
and
gibi
justice
kavramlar
have
rafa
been
kaldırılmış.
shelved away.
Gelinen noktada
At this point,
hepimiz
we all
şu
have to
gerçeği
see
görmek zorundayız.
the following
Değerli
truth,
dostlar,
my dear friends.
vaat edilmiş topraklar
The Israeli
saplantısıyla
government,
hareket
driven by an
eden
obsession
İsrail
with the
yönetimi
promised lands,
yayılmacı bir
is
politikayla
openly threatening
bölge
regional
barışına
peace and
ve
shared
insanlığın
values of
müşterek kazanımlarına kastetmektedir. 3 semavi dinin kutsal beldesi,
Three celestial
insanlığın
religions.
ortak mirası olan Kudüs-ü Şerif
Jerusalem
bu radikalizmin
hosts
doğrudan
all three celestial
hedefidir.
religions and
Vicdan sahibi
a common
Musevileri de
inherited
rahatsız eden,
holy place.
onların da tasvip
and
etmediği
Quds is
dahası
holy for all
tüm
three
dünyada
religions.
antisemitizmi körükleyen bu cinnet
This
hali
madness disturbs
artık
conscientious Jews.
daha
It
fazla
fuels anti-Semitism
devam
around the
edemez.
world. We cannot continue with this madness anymore.
Gazze'de ateşkes bir an önce sağlanmalı,
We have to have
saldırılar
ceasefire in Gaza
durmalı,
as soon as possible.
insani
Attacks
yardımların
should stop.
engelsiz girişine
Humanitarian aid
mutlaka
should be able to
izin
enter with
verilmelidir.
no obstacles.
Soykırım kadrosunun uluslararası
genocide
hukuka hesap vermesi
Team
temin
should be held
edilmelidir.
accountable vis-a-vis
İnşallah
international law.
bu mutlaka
And God willing,
gerçekleşecektir.
this will definitely
Gazze'de
happen.
yaşanan barbarlığa karşı
Vis-a-vis the
sesini
barbarity
yükseltmeyen,
taking place in
tavır
Gaza,
almayan herkes
everyone
bu
who is
vahşetin
keeping silent
sorumluluğuna ortak.
is accomplice to this
Buradan
barbarity.
bütün devlet ve
From
hükümet
here, I would
başkanlarına
like to call on
samimiyetle
all the heads of
sesleniyorum.
state and
Gün bugün.
government. Today is the
Gün
day.
insanlık adına Filistinli
Today
mazlumların
is the day
yanında
to stand
dimdik
firm
durma
alongside the
günüdür.
oppressed Palestinians and
Halklarınız
alongside humanity.
Gazze'deki barbarlığa tepki
While your
gösterirken
peoples back
gelin
home are reacting to
sizler
the
de
barbarity in
adım
Gaza,
adım
do
cesaretinizi
show the
gösterin.
courage to take action
Çocukların çocukları büyüttüğü Gazze'ye
Fulfill your
karşı
humanitarian duty
insanlık
toward Gaza,
görevinizi
where
yerine
children
getirin.
are raising
Bu
children.
vesileyle dünyanın farklı
On
ülkelerinde
this occasion,
Gazze'li mazlumlara sahip çıkmak için meydanları dolduran
I would like to say
Gazze'li
the following.
masumlara
There
destek
are
olmak için
peoples all around the world who
denizlere
are taken to
yelken
the
açan
streets.
akademisyeniyle, sanatçısıyla,
Unarmed activists and
siyasetçisiyle,
volunteers from different countries
aktivistiyle,
of the world,
öğrencisiyle,
academicians,
tüm
students,
Filistin
journalists,
savunucularına
everyone, all
en
the
kalbi
defenders of
selamlarımı yolluyorum.
Palestine. I would like to say to them, thank you so much. And clear bows
Kıymetli
and
delegeler,
favorable winds
13
for
yıl
their
boyunca
actions.
sizlere
Esteemed
bu
delegation
kürsüden
members,
komşumuz
for 13
Suriye'de
years,
yaşanan
I
zulümden
have spoken to you
ve
from this
çatışmalardan
platform about the oppression
bahsettim.
and conflicts in our
Nasıl
neighbor
bugün
Syria.
Gazze'li mazlumlar için
Just as I
sesimizi
raised my voice
yükseltiyorsak
today for the oppressed
13
people
yıl
of
süresince
Gaza,
de Suriyelilerin
likely for
feryatlarına
13 years,
dikkat
I
çek.
have also drawn attention to the
Burada onların
cries
da
of the Syrians,
sesi,
and
nefesi
here
oldu.
I became their voice
1 milyon
and
insanın
breath as well.
hayatına, milyonlarcasının da
The persecution
vatanlarını
that caused
terk
the deaths
etmesine
of 1
sebep olan
million
zulüm,
people
8
and that
Aralık
forced millions
devrimiyle
more to
birlikte
flee their
hamdolsun
homeland has,
artık
thankfully,
tarihe
become a
karıştı.
thing of the past.
Suriyeli
With the
kardeşlerimiz
December 8th
8
revolution.
Aralık tarihi
Our Syrian
itibariyle
brothers and sisters
yeni bir dönemin
opened the doors to a new
kapılarını
period
açtılar.
as of December the 8th.
Eli kanlı bir rejime karşı
I believe that the
mücadeleyi
people of
kazanan
Syria who
Suriye
fought against
halkı
a bloodthirsty
inanıyorum
regime
ki
will
büyük
also be
bedeller
able to
ödeyerek
carry the victory
elde
they
ettikleri
achieved at
zaferi
great
de
cost
inşallah
to its
menziline
rightful place,
ulaştıracaktır.
God willing.
DAEŞ başta olmak üzere terörün
We'll
hiçbir
support
çeşidinin
with all our
olmadığı,
means the vision of
güvenliğin
a one
tesis
and unified
edildiği
Syria
bir
with
ve
no
bütün
forms of
Suriye
terrorism,
vizyonunu
especially
tüm
ISIS,
imkanlarımızla
being present.
destekleyeceğiz. Suriye'de istikrar
A free
kökleştikçe
Syria where security
hiç
is
şüphesiz
established is what we
bunun
want.
kazananı
As stability takes root in
Suriyelilerle
Syria,
birlikte
the
tüm
winners
komşu ülkeler,
for sure
tüm
will be all
bölgemiz
the neighboring
olacak.
countries, our entire region along
Körfez'deki
with Syrians.
kardeş ülkelere de
And the
Suriye'nin
brotherly countries in the
toparlanmasına
Gulf.
verdikleri katkılar
I would
için
like to thank them for their
teşekkürlerimi
contributions
iletiyorum.
for
Bizimle
Syria to
aynı
recuperate.
ilkeleri paylaşan tüm bölgesel
All the
ve
regional and
uluslararası
international
aktörlerle
actors who share the same
işbirliğimizi
principles with us,
inşallah
God
aynı
willing,
şekilde
we will continue
sürdüreceğiz.
with our cooperation with all those
Değerli dostlar,
actors in the same manner.
komşumuz
Esteemed
İran'la
friends,
ilgili nükleer dosyanın
we hope
bir an
that the
evvel
nuclear
diplomasi
issue with our
yoluyla
neighbor Iran will be
çözülmesini
resolved through
temenni ediyorum.
diplomacy as soon as possible.
unutulmamalıdır
It
ki
should not be forgotten
bölgemiz
that our
yeni bir
region
krizi
cannot
daha
tolerate
kaldıramaz.
yet another crisis.
Komşumuz Irak'ın
Meanwhile,
istikrarı,
the stability,
güvenliği
security
ve
and
refahı
prosperity of our neighbor
bölgemizin
Iraq
selameti bakımından
are extremely important
fevkalade
for the well-being
önemlidir.
of our region.
Kalkınma yolu projesi gibi kolektif refahı
In this
önceleyen
regard, we attach great
stratejik
importance
hamlelere
to strategic
bu
moves
bakımdan
based on
büyük
stability
önem
and prosperity,
atfediyoruz.
such as the
Kuzeyde
development path
her
project.
ikisi de komşumuz
In the
olan
north, we are
Rusya
hosting
ve
with
Ukrayna
great
arasında
enthusiasm the Istanbul process
İstanbul
between
sürecine
Russia and
büyük bir
Ukraine,
iştiyakla
both of
ev
which
sahipliği
are
yapıyoruz.
our neighbors.
Doğrudan görüşmeler sayesinde
Through
çok
direct
sayıda
talks, we
esirin
facilitated
ve
the
naaşın
exchange of
mübadelesine
several prisoners and
aracılık etti.
corpses, and we
Taraflar
worked to
arasında
identify the
barış
modalities
müzakerelerinin modalitelerini
of peace
belirlemeye çalıştık.
negotiations between the
Unutmayın,
parties.
savaşın kazananı
forget,
adil bir barışın kaybedeni
there is no
olmaz
winner of
şiarıyla
war
önümüzdeki
and no
dönemde
losers
de
of a just
ateşkes
peace.
için
So with this
çaba
motto in mind, in
göstermeye
the coming days
devam
also,
edeceğiz.
we will continue to work hard
Azerbaycan
for a peaceful
ve
ceasefire.
Ermenistan arasında barışın
Meanwhile,
tesisi için
We have
tarafları
encouraged the parties
en başından
from the
bu
very
yana
beginning to establish peace
cesaretlendirdik.
between Azerbaijan
8
and
Ağustos
Armenia.
tarihinde iki ülke arasında kalıcı
We are
barışa
pleased
giden
that steps were
adımların
taken on
atılmasından
August the 8th,
memnuniyet duyuyoruz.
steps that will
Azerbaycan
enable the
Cumhurbaşkanı
establishment of lasting peace
Sayın
between the two
Aliyev
countries.
ile Ermenistan
I would like to
Başbakanı
once again
Sayın
congratulate the President
Paşinyan
of
başta
Azerbaijan,
olmak üzere
İlham Aliyev, the Prime
sürece
Minister
katkıda
of
bulunan
Armenia, Nikol
Amerikan
Pashinyan,
Başkanı
and
Sayın
the American
Trump'ı
President Donald
burada
Trump, who
bir kez daha
contributed
tebrik
to this
ediyorum.
process, and I would like to
Bu
congratulate them.
vesileyle ülkemizle Ermenistan
On
arasındaki
this occasion, I would
normalleşme
also like to state
sürecinin
that the
kendi
normalization
rayında
process
ilerlediğini
between
de
our country and
ifade
Armenia
etmek
is
isterim.
progressing
Diğer
as
bir
planned.
arabuluculuk faaliyetimiz olan Ankara süreci kapsamında
Within the scope of the
Somali
Ankara
ile
process,
Etiyopya
which is another
arasındaki
of our
ihtilafın
mediation
halline
activities,
yönelik
we continue our
gayretlerimizi
efforts to resolve
sürdürüyoruz.
the conflict between
Tarafların
Somalia and Ethiopia.
bu girişimi
I
hızla
hope that the parties
başarıyla
will successfully
neticelendirmelerini
conclude this genuine
temenni
initiative
ediyorum.
as soon as possible.
Değerli delegeler,
Distinguished
Karadeniz'de
delegation members,
güvenliğin teminatı olan Montreux
we have been
Sözleşmesi'ni
implementing
tam
the Montreux
89 yıldır
Convention, which
tarafsızlık
guarantees
içinde
security in the Black Sea.
harfiyen
And we have been
uygulamaktayız.
implementing this
Ege
this
Denizi'ni
convention impartially
ve
and
Doğu
to the
Akdeniz'i
letter for exactly
ilgili
89
tüm
years
tarafların
now.
meşru
We want to see
menfaatlerine
the Aegean
riayet
Sea
edilen
and the Eastern
bir
Mediterranean
istikrar
as a basin
ve
of
refah
stability and
havzası olarak
prosperity
görmek
where the
istiyoruz.
legitimate interests of
Enerji
all parties
ve
involved are
çevre
respected.
başta olmak üzere her
We
konuda
are ready for
yapıcı
constructive
işbirliğine hazırız.
cooperation on all issues,
Komşularımızdan
particularly
da
on energy and the
aynısını
environment,
bekliyoruz.
and we expect the same approach from our
Bu
neighbors.
vesileyle
On this
Doğu
occasion,
Akdeniz'de
I
Türkiye'yi
would like to
ve
particularly
Kuzey Kıbrıs
underline that
Türk
projects
Cumhuriyeti'ni
which
dışlayan
exclude
projelerin
Türkiye and the
başarılı
Turkish Republic of
olamayacağını
Northern Cyprus
burada
in the Eastern
özellikle
Mediterranean,
vurgulamak
such
istiyorum.
projects which include
Kıbrıs
exclude
adasının
us will not be
batısında
successful.
Türkiye'nin hak ve
Türkiye has
yetkileri
rights and
adanın
authority in the
etrafındaki
western part of the
alanlarda
island
ise
of Cyprus,
Kıbrıs
while
Türklerinin
the Turkish
meşru
Cypriots have
hakları var.
legitimate rights in the
Daha
areas
evvel de
surrounding
teklif
the island.
ettiğimiz Doğu Akdeniz
An Eastern
Konferansı
Mediterranean
müşterek bir
Conference,
zeminin
which we have
bulunmasına
proposed before,
katkı
would
yapacak.
contribute to finding
Kıbrıs
common
meselesinin çözümü daha önce defalarca denenmiş
Resolving the
ancak
Cyprus
Rum tarafının
issue has been tried many
uzlaşmaz
times
tutumu
before,
nedeniyle
but,
tüketilmiş federasyon modeli üzerine bina edilemez. Kıbrıs adasında iki
Due to the
ayrı
rigid
devlet
stance of the Greek
ve
Cypriot side,
iki
no
ayrı
resolution has been
halk
found.
vardır.
We cannot possibly
Kıbrıs Türkleri
have this as a foundation
adanın
for a
eşit
resolution
sahibidir
of the issue.
ve
There are two
azınlık
separate
olmayı
states and two
kabul
separate peoples
etmeyecek.
on the island of Cyprus. Turkish
Uluslararası
Cypriots are
toplum,
equal owners of the island
Kıbrıs
and they will not
Türklerinin
accept being a
yarım
minority.
asırdır maruz
The international
bırakıldıkları
community must put an end to
haksız
the unfair and
izolasyona
inhumane
artık
isolation that the
son
Turkish
vermelidir.
Cypriots have been subjected
Son
to for
3
half a
Birleşmiş
century
Milletler Genel Kurulu'nda yaptığım
I
çağrıyı
reiterate the
bugün
call
bir
I
kere
made
daha
at the
tekrarlıyor.
last three UN General
Uluslararası
Assemblies.
toplumu Kuzey
Let me
Kıbrıs
repeat. I
Türk
call on the
Cumhuriyeti'ni
international community
tanımaya,
to recognize the Turkish
diplomatik,
Republic of
siyasi
Northern Cyprus
ve
and
ekonomik
to establish
ilişkiler
the
kurmaya
diplomatic, political
davet
and
ediyorum.
economic relations
Sayın
with it.
Başkan,
Esteemed President,
Sayın Başkan, değerli üyeler, önümüzdeki
distinguished
dönemde
members, in the coming period,
Türkiye-Avrupa Birliği
we
ilişkilerinde
desire a new
yeni
beginning
bir
and
başlangıç
vision in Turkey
ve
European Union
vizyon
relations.
arzuluyoruz. Bu vizyon günü
This
kurtaran
should
değil,
not be a vision that just
ufku
saves the
yeniden
day,
tayin eden,
but rather a
ortak
vision that
geleceğimizi
redefines the
şekillendiren
horizon and
bir
shapes our
vizyon
shared
olmalıdır.
future.
Bunun için elbette
For this,
Avrupa
it is
Birliği'nin de
of course
bizim
important
kadar
that the European
istekli
Union is as
ve
willing
kararlı
and
olması
determined as we are.
mühimdir. Net güvenlik sağlayıcısı bir ülke
As a
olarak
net security provider,
Birleşmiş Milletler,
we continue to
NATO,
contribute to the
AGİ
operations and
ve
missions of
Avrupa
the United
Birliği'nin
Nations,
harekat
NATO,
ve misyonlarına
OSCE,
katkılarımızı
and the
sürdürüyoruz.
European Union.
2026 yılındaki NATO zirvesini
The annual NATO summit
Ankara'da
next year
toplayacağız.
will be held in Turkey,
NATO
in Ankara.
müttefikimiz Amerika Birleşik Devletleri ile
The USA, who is our
ilişkilerimizi
NATO ally.
ticaret,
Our relations with
yatırım,
them are continuing
enerji
on trade,
ve
investments,
savunma sanayi
energy,
başta olmak üzere
defense industry,
birçok alanda
in addition
güçlendiriyoruz.
to other many areas,
Ata
and we're
yurdumuz,
strengthening our
Orta
relations with
Asya'daki
them.
kardeş
Meanwhile, we
ülkelerimizin
attach great
barış,
importance to the peace,
istikrar
stability
ve
and
refahı
prosperity
bizim
of our
için
brotherly countries in
vazgeçilmezdir.
Central Asia,
Türk
which
Devletleri
is our
Teşkilatımız
ancestral homeland.
bölgesel bir çatı olmanın ötesine
Our
geçerek
organization of Turkic
küresel bir
states
aktör
is
olma
moving
yolunda
forward with
ilerliyor.
confidence on the path to becoming a
Köklü
global
beşeri bağlarımızın
actor, going
olduğu
beyond being merely a
Balkanlarda
regional umbrella.
barışın ve istikrarın sürmesi için
We are making intensive
yoğun
efforts to ensure the
gayret
continuation of
içindeyiz.
peace and stability
Temmuz
in the
ayında
Balkans,
ihdas
where we have
ettiğimiz
strong historical,
Balkan
cultural and people ties.
Barış
The
Platformu
Balkan
bu
Peace
yöndeki
Platform, which we
çabalarımızın
established in
en
July,
yeni
is
örneği.
the newest and most
KFOR
concrete manifestation
komutanlığı
of our
görevini
efforts
de
in this direction.
bu yıl
And
Ekim ayında bir kez daha
this October,
üstleneceğiz.
we'll once again assume the
Afganistan'daki
command of
yönetimin
KFOR forces.
Toplumu
In
kuşatıcı,
Afghanistan,
dikkate alan
our
bir
fundamental
anlayış
desire is that
sergilemesi
the current
temel
administration demonstrates
arzumuzdur.
an approach that embraces
Yeniden
the society
toparlanma
and
sürecinde
that takes human
uluslararası
values into
toplumun
consideration.
Afgan
In
halkını
this process, it is
yalnız
essential that the international
bırakmaması.
community does not leave
Türkiye
Afghan people
ve
alone,
Türk milleti olarak
and
Afgan kardeşlerimizin
as Türkiye
her
and
daim
as the Turkish
yanında
nation
olmaya
will
devam
stand by
edeceğiz.
the Afghan people
Değerli dostlar, Güney Asya'da
at all
barış ve
times.
istikrarın
Esteemed friends, in
muhafazasını
South Asia,
son derece
we
önemli
consider the
görüyoruz.
preservation of peace and
Nisan
stability
ayında
to be of utmost
Pakistan
importance.
ve
We
Hindistan
are pleased
arasındaki
with the
çatışmaya varan
ceasefire achieved
bu
following the
gerilimde
tensions
varılan
last April between
ateşkesten
Pakistan and
memnuniyet
India.
duyuyoruz.
The tension which had
İki ülke
escalated into
arasında
a conflict.
terörle mücadelede işbirliğini önemsiyoruz.
It is important to see a
Keşmir
cooperation between the
meselesinin
two countries when it
Birleşmiş
comes to
Milletler
counterterrorism.
Güvenlik Konseyi
The
kararları
issue of
temelinde
Kashmir
Keşmirli
should be
kardeşlerimizin
resolved on
beklentileri
the basis of
ekseninde
resolutions of the
diyalogla
UN
çözülmesini
for the best for
destekliyoruz.
our brothers and sisters
Afrika
in Kashmir
kıtasıyla
through dialogue. we hope.
eğitimden sağlığa,
In the
altyapıdan
continent of
ticarete
Africa,
kadar
from education
geniş bir
to
yelpazede
health, from infrastructure
ilişkilerimiz
to
yıldan
in
yıla
other areas,
güçleniyor. Somali'nin
religious
terörle
relations are
mücadelesine
improving.
gereken her türlü
annually.
desteği verirken insani yardım faaliyetlerimizi de
And while providing all
sürdürüyor.
possible support to Somalia,
Sudan'da
we are also
2
continuing
yılı
our
aşkın
humanitarian
süredir
and
devam
aid
eden
activities. In
çatışma
Sudan, the
ortamı
conflict that has been
bizleri
going on for
ziyadesiyle
over 2 years
üzmektedir.
saddens us deeply.
Sudan'da akan kanın durması ve
Stopping the
sürdürülebilir
bloodshed
barışın
in Sudan and
tesis
establishing
edilmesi
sustainable peace is
uluslararası
the shared
toplumun
responsibility
ortak
of the
sorumluluğu.
international community.
Bizim bu yöndeki
And
çabalarımız
Turkey's efforts in
devam
this
edecek.
direction will continue.
Büyük Göller Bölgesi
The Great Lakes
yıllardır
region
süren
has suffered
istikrarsızlık
greatly
ve
from years
çatışmalardan
of ongoing
ziyadesiyle
instability
müzdarip
and
olmuştur.
conflict.
Kongo Demokratik Cumhuriyeti'nin doğusunda yaşanan
Our hope is
çatışmalar
that these conflicts
bir an
in
önce
the east of the Democratic
çözülmelidir.
Republic of the Congo
Amerika'nın
will give way to
arabuluculuğu
lasting peace and stability.
ve Katar'ın
We wholeheartedly
kolaylaştırıcılığında
support the
yürütülen
efforts being carried
gayretleri
out under the mediation
samimiyetle
of the
destekliyoruz.
US and the facilitation
Batı
of
Afrika'da
Qatar.
bilhassa
The
sahil
increasing
havzasında
terrorist activities in
artan
West
terör
Africa,
faaliyetlerini de
particularly in the
endişeyle
Sahel Basin,
takip
are
ediyoruz.
also of great concern
Tarihi
to us.
bağlarımızın bulunduğu bu
We will
bölge
continue our
halklarının
unwavering
huzura
efforts to ensure
ve istikrara
peace,
kavuşmaları
tranquility
için
and stability
çabalarımız
for the peoples of
devam
this region
edecek.
with whom we share
İlhamını
historical ties.
çift başlı
Drawing
Selçuklu
inspiration
Kartalı'ndan
from the
alan
historical
bizim de
double-headed
360
Turkish
derecelik
Selçuk Eagle,
yaklaşımla yürüttüğümüz
I would like to emphasize
Türk
that our
dış
relations with
politikasında
Asian countries
Asya
and Turkish
ülkeleriyle
foreign
ilişkilerimiz
policy are of
büyük
great
stratejik
strategic importance.
öneme sahip.
We pursue a
Yeniden
360-degree approach
Asya
in this policy.
girişimimiz çerçevesinde
Within the
ASEAN
framework of our Return
başta
to
olmak
Asia
üzere
initiative, we
bölgesel
are deepening our
kuruluşlarla
engagement with
angajmanımız
regional
giderek
organizations
derinleşiyor.
such as
Latin
ASEAN,
Amerika
the Indian
ve
Ocean Rim
Karayipler bölgesiyle
Association, for
münasebetlerimizi
example. We will
ortaklık
continue
ruhuyla
to develop new
ve
partnerships with
kazan
Asian countries,
kazan
and we
yaklaşımıyla
attach great
geliştirmeye
importance to developing
büyük
our
önem
relations with
atfediyoruz.
Latin America and the Caribbean
Bölgedeki
region in a
tüm
spirit of
ülkelerle
partnership and a
kurmuş
win-win
olduğumuz
approach.
dostane
We are
bağları
determined to
daha
further
ileriye
strengthen
taşıma
the friendly
irademiz
ties we have
bakidir.
established with all the countries in the region.
Kıymetli delegeler,
Esteemed
uluslararası
delegation members,
ticarette artan korumacılık
increasing
eğilimleri
protectionist
ve
trends in
tedarik
international
zincirlerinde
trade and
yaşanan
disruptions in
kırılmalar
supply chains
dünya
are
ekonomisinde
leading to
esaslı
fundamental
değişimlere
changes in the
yol
global
açıyor.
economy.
Mevcut sınamalarla başarılı mücadele için
To successfully
Dünya
address current
Ticaret
challenges,
Örgütü'nün yer
we
aldığı
support the
kurallara
reform
dayalı
of
uluslararası ticaretin reforme
including the
edilmesini
World Trade
destekliyoruz.
Organization.
Ucuz, güvenli ve
I believe
sürdürülebilir
access to
enerjiye
affordable,
erişimi
safe and sustainable
özellikle
energy is
gelişmekte
essential,
olan
particularly
ülkelerin
for developing
kalkınma
countries
hedeflerinin
to be able to
gerçekleştirilmesi
achieve
için
their development
vazgeçilmez buluyorum. Çin'den Avrupa'ya uzanan ve stratejik önemi
We are
haiz
resolutely advancing
pazar
the
geçişli
strategically important
Doğu-Batı
Trans-Caspian
ortak
East-West
koridoru
Middle
projesini
Corridor project,
ilerletiyoruz.
which extends
Modern
from China
ulaştırma
to
altyapımız ve Bakü
We contribute
Tiflis
to the
Kars
development of
hattıyla
world trade with
dünya
our modern
ticaretinin
transportation
gelişimine
infrastructure and the
katkı sunuyoruz.
Bakü-Tbilisi-Kars
Tabiata saygılı
line.
bir gelecek inşa
On
etme
our journey
hedefiyle
to build a future that
çıktığımız
respects
yolda
nature, we are moving
2053
forward with
net
determination
sıfır
towards the
emisyon hedefine doğru
2053 net
kararlılıkla
zero emission
ilerliyoruz.
target.
Eşim Emine Erdoğan'ın himayesinde yürüyen
We are pleased
sıfır
to
atık
observe that the
hareketinin
zero waste
tüm
movement,
dünyada
under the
her yıl
patronage
dalga dalga
of my
büyüyen,
wife Emine
daha
Erdoğan,
fazla insana
has grown in
ve
waves
kalbe
around the
ulaşan
world every year,
bir farkındalık
reaching
halkasına
more
dönüştüğünü
people
görmek
and
bizim için
hearts.
ayrı bir bahtiyarlıktır. Bu süreçte gelişmiş ülkelerin
In this
sorumluluklarını
process, it is
yerine
no longer a
getirmesi
choice for
artık
developed
bir
countries to fulfill
tercihten
their
öte
responsibilities.
yükümlülük haline
It has
gelmiştir.
now become an obligation
Dünyada
for
en
them.
fazla kalkınma yardımı yapan
As one of the
ülkelerden biri
countries
olarak
providing the most
Birleşmiş
development
Milletler'in
aid in the world, we
sürdürülebilir
are striving to
kalkınma
achieve the
hedeflerine
UN
ulaşılması
Sustainable
için
Development
çaba
Goals.
harcıyoruz. 2030 hedeflerine erişmek ve dünyanın dört bir yanındaki
To
yüz
achieve the
milyonlarca insanı
2030 goals
onurlu yaşama
and to enable
kavuşturmak
hundreds
için
of millions of
küresel
people around the world to
finansman
live with dignity,
mimarisinin
we advocate
kimseyi
for aligning the
geride
global
bırakmama
financial
anlayışıyla
architecture with the
uyumlu hale
principle of
getirilmesini
leaving no one
savunuyoruz.
behind.
Burada şunu da
And here,
özellikle
let me
dikkatinizi
also
çekerek
particularly draw
söylemek
your
istiyorum.
attention to
Biz
the following.
jeopolitik sınamalarla uğraşırken
While
insanlık
we grapple with
yapay
geopolitical
zeka
challenges,
alanında
humanity is also
olağanüstü bir
witnessing an
sıçramaya
extraordinary
şahitlik
leap
ediyor.
forward in artificial
Çığır açan bu
intelligence, AI.
teknolojilerin dönüştürücü gücü ve
The transformative
sunduğu
power
nimetlerden
and the benefits
hiçbir
offered by these
toplumun
technologies,
mahrum
no
bırakılmaması
society should
gerekiyor.
be deprived of
Yapay
these
zeka
benefits.
teknolojileri yeni bir
AI
tahakküm aracı
technologies
olarak
should
değil,
be used for
insanlığın
the benefit
lehine
of humanity,
kullanılmalıdır.
not as a new
Ev
tool of
sahipliğini
domination.
yaptığımız en az gelişmiş ülkeler
The
için
UN Technology
Birleşmiş
Bank for the
Milletler
least developed countries, which
Teknoloji
we host
Bankası
in Turkey,
dijital
plays a
ve
critical role
teknolojik
in
açığın
closing the digital
kapatılmasında
and
kritik rol
technological
oynuyor.
gap.
Hazırladığımız ve evrensel mutabakatla yakında imzaya açacağımız
We have prepared
dijital dünyada çocuk hakları sözleşmesinin
Children's
bu
Rights
alanda
Convention in the
küresel bir
digital
farkındalık
world, and we will
oluşturacağına
soon open
inanıyor.
this up for ratification.
Çabalarımıza
I'm sure this will
güçlü
create
desteğinizi
a lot of awareness in
bekliyoruz.
this area.
Diğer taraftan
And we expect your
ırkçılık,
support for this. On
yabancı
the other
karşıtlığı
hand,
ve bilhassa
today's
İslam
world,
düşmanlığının
racism,
vahim
xenophobia,
boyutlara
and
ulaştığı
particularly
günümüzde
Islamophobia have
bir
reached
arada
alarming levels.
yaşama kültürünü tehdit
Combating
eden
these trends
bu akımlarla
that greatly
mücadele
threaten the cultural
insanlık
coexistence
için
has
zaruret
now become
halini
an essential
almıştır.
duty for humanity.
Medeniyetler İttifakı yüksek
It is
temsilcisi
significant that
Sayın
Mr.
Moratinos'un
High Representative of
Birleşmiş
the Alliance
Milletler
of
Genel
Civilizations
Sekreterinin
has also been appointed as
İslamofobi
the
ile
UN
mücadele
Secretary General's
özel
Special Envoy
elçisi
on
olarak da
combating
atanması
Islamophobia.
kıymetlidir. Geçen sene burada ifade ettiğim gibi
As
aile
I
kurumu
stated here last year, the
günümüzde daha önce
institution
hiç
of the
olmadığı
family
kadar
is under threat
tehdit
today as
altındadır.
never before.
Kadın ve erkekten oluşan
Defending the
aileyi
family,
savunmak,
consisting
aynı
of a
zamanda
woman and a
insanı,
man, means
fıtratı,
defending
yaşamı
humanity,
ve
defending nature,
geleceği savunmak
life
demektir.
and the future.
Türkiye olarak artan saldırılar
Turkey
karşısında
will continue to
aileyi
defend the
savunmaya
family in
devam
the face
edeceğiz.
of ever-increasing attacks.
Kıymetli delegeler,
Distinguished delegation members,
insanlığın bir daha savaş felaketi yaşamaması için
the roots of the
kurulan
UN
Birleşmiş
established to
Milletler'in
prevent
kökleri
humanity from
içinde bulunduğumuz
experiencing the disaster of war
karanlık
again
döneme
are
ışık
filled with
tutacak
values
değerlerle
that will
doludur.
eliminate the dark
Genel
era we
Sekreter
are in.
Sayın Guterres'in teşkilatımızı
We fully
etkin
support
ve
the
verimli hale
UN
getirmek
80
amacıyla
initiative
başlattığı
launched by Secretary
Birleşmiş
General
Milletler
Guterres to make
80
our
girişimine
organization more
desteğimiz
effective and
tamdır.
more
Bu
efficient.
girişimin Birleşmiş Milletler'in tüm faaliyetlerini daha da
I hope this
güçlendirecek bir
initiative
süreç
succeeds
olarak
as a process
başarıya
that will further
ulaşmasını
strengthen all
temenni
the
ediyorum.
activities of
Bu
the UN.
sürece İstanbul'u bir Birleşmiş
I
Milletler
express our
merkezi
readiness
haline
to provide strong
getirme
support to this
vizyonumuzdan
process,
da
also
hareketle
driven by our vision
güçlü
of
destek
making
vermeye hazırız.
Istanbul a UN
80.
hub.
yılda Birleşmiş Milletler'i kuruluş ruhuna döndürecek
I sincerely
adımları
believe that
atmak
it is our shared
hepimizin
responsibility to
ortak
take steps
sorumluluğudur.
that will restore the
Biz
founding spirit of the UN
güçlünün haklı olduğu
in
değil,
its 80th year. We
haklının
will
güçlü
continue to
olduğu
say
bir sistem kurulana kadar dünya 5'ten
the
büyüktür
world is
demeye
bigger than
devam
five
edeceğiz.
until a system is established where the righteous are powerful, not the powerful are righteous.
Görevimiz sistemi
Our
terk
duty
etmek
is
değil,
not to abandon the system,
onarmak,
but rather to
yeniden
repair it
işler hale
and to
getirmek.
make it work again.
Hiç şüphesiz
Without a doubt,
daha adil
a
bir
more
dünya
just, a
mümkündür.
fairer world is
Türkiye
possible.
daha adil bir dünyanın
Türkiye will
inşası
patiently
için
continue its
mücadelesini
fight for the construction
sabırla
of a more just
devam
world.
ettirecektir. Rabbim yar ve
So,
yardımcımız
may God
olsun
help
diyorum.
and aid us
Hepinizi
all.
bir kez
Once
daha
again,
sevgi
let me
ve
greet you all
saygıyla selamlıyorum.
Kind
Kalın
regards
sağlıcakla.
and thank you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Turkey, the Assembly will hear an address by Her Excellency Dina Ercilia Boluarte Segara, President of the Republic of Peru. I request protocol to escort Her Excellency and invite her to address the Assembly.
Señora Presidenta de la Asamblea
Madam
General,
President of the
Annalena
General
Baerbock.
Assembly, Annalena Baerbock,
Señor Secretario General de las
Secretary
Naciones
General of the
Unidas,
United Nations,
Antonio Guterres.
Guterres,
Señoras
ladies
y señores,
and gentlemen,
jefes de Estado
heads of state,
y señoras presentes en esta magna
ladies
asamblea.
and gentlemen present
El
here
Perú
in this august forum.
Es el centro y cuna de
Peru is
grandes
the center and
civilizaciones
cradle
milenarias,
of great millennial
siendo la
civilizations,
última
the last
el
of which
imperio de
was
los
the
Incas,
Inca Empire,
que dejó
which
un
left
legado
us
de
a
grandeza.
legacy of greatness.
Somos herederos
We are
asimismo
also heirs
del
of
virreinato
the
del Perú, que
viceroyalty
abarcó
of
las
Peru,
dos terceras
which
partes
encompassed
de
2/3
América
of
del
South
Sur.
America.
Somos un país mestizo,
We are a mestizo
mezcla
nation,
fundamental
a
entre
fundamental
hispanos
mix
y
between
andinos,
Hispanic and Andean
orgulloso
peoples,
de ser heredero
proud to
de
be
los
the
más
heirs
grandes
of the two
imperios de
greatest
Europa y
empires
América
of Europe
del
and
siglo
America
XVI.
of the 16th century.
El pueblo peruano
The
es
Peruvian
hoy
people today
resiliente,
are resilient,
emprendedor, solidario,
entrepreneurial, supportive,
de la paz,
and lovers of
la
peace,
libertad y la
freedom,
democracia.
and democracy.
Nuestros grandes
Our great writers,
escritores, Mario Vargas
Mario
Llosa
Vargas Llosa
y José
and
María
José María
Arguedas,
Arguedas,
compartieron la idea
shared the idea
de que el Perú
that
es
Peru
país
is a
de
country
todas
of
las sangres.
all bloods.
Nuestra identidad expresa
Our
creativamente
identity
que somos
creatively
la unidad
expresses that we are
de los
the
diversos,
unity of the diverse,
unidos bajo la misma
united
roja y
under the
blanca
same
bandera
red and
peruana.
white Peruvian flag.
En nuestro país
In our country,
viven los pueblos
native
originarios y los
peoples
pueblos
and
del
peoples
mundo
of the
en
world
paz
live together
y unidad
in peace and
como una
unity
gran síntesis del
as a
Perú.
great synthesis
País en el que vivió y trabajó
Peru,
durante
the
40
country
años
in
el Papa
which
León
Pope
XIV,
Leo XIV lived
nacionalizado
and worked in
peruano,
for 40
por su
years,
profundo
a
amor a
naturalized
nuestra
Peruvian
gente,
because of his deep love
tanto
for
por
our
su
people,
carácter solidario
both
y
for his
pacífico
supportive
como
as well
por
as
su fe
his
católica
peaceful
y
disposition
cristiana.
and his Catholic and Christian faith.
Todos los estudios señalan
All studies
que somos el
indicate
país más
that we are the
emprendedor
most
del mundo,
entrepreneurial
razón
country in the world,
por la cual después de la
which
pandemia
is
del
why, after the
COVID-19, que por
COVID-19
una
pandemic,
pésima
that
administración
due to
gubernamental
poor government
alcanzó
administration
más de 2
claimed
millones
more
de
than 2
fallecidos.
million lives.
Nos hemos empezado a
But we have
recuperar
begun
logrando
to
hoy
recover,
más de 17 meses
and
de
today
crecimiento
we look back on more
consecutivo
than 17
de
months
nuestra
of
economía.
consecutive
Hemos
economic growth.
derrotado la
We have
recesión y la
overcome the
inflación
recession and
originada por la
inflation
violencia
caused by
política
political violence
y por la
and by
corrupción.
corruption,
un golpe de
a
Estado
failed
fallido
coup d'etat,
y la fuga de más de
and the
20
flight
mil
of more
millones
than
de
$20
dólares
billion
entre los años
that was between
2021 y
2021 and
2023.
2023.
Hemos recuperado la
We
confianza
have
de la inversión nacional,
regained
pero
the trust of
también
national but also
del extranjero,
of foreign
y
investment,
abrazado
and
a la
we
libertad.
have embraced freedom.
Somos un país solvente
We
y
are a
estable
solvent and a stable
por el
country.
golpe de Estado de diciembre del
Because of the coup
2022
attempt
que
of December
pretendía
2022,
instaurar una
which sought to
dictadura
establish a
sometiendo
dictatorship
a todos los
by
poderes del
forcing all
Estado,
branches of the state
tuve que asumir
into submission, I had
constitucionalmente
to
la
constitutionally
presidencia de la
assume the
República.
presidency of the Republic.
Desde ese entonces
Since that
se
date,
estableció una narrativa
narrative
por la cual
was
el
established
golpista
by which
se
the coup
convirtió en
plotter
víctima y la
became a
presidenta
victim, and
que
the
asumió
president, who
constitucional y
constitutionally
legalmente
and
la
legally
presidencia,
assumed the presidency,
fue acusada
was
por algunas
accused
voces
by
de
some
golpista
quarters
y
of being
usurpadora.
a coup plotter and
La
usurper.
mentira trastocada en verdad,
Lies turned into truth,
la verdad en
and truth
mentira.
turned into lies.
Este es uno de los temas
This is
que
one
nuestro,
of the
de nuestro
issues
tiempo.
of our time.
La construcción
The
de
building
narrativas
of false
falsas que
narratives
buscan armar
to
proyectos
attempt to defend
políticos antidemocráticos.
anti-democratic
La
political
reflexión
projects.
es que las
The
ideologías
thinking
de
goes
odio,
that ideologies of
con sus
hatred,
proyectos de
with their
estados
projects of
fallidos
failed states
que crecen
that
como
grow
estados
into all-powerful
todopoderosos,
states,
requieren para
require,
imponerse una
in order to
narrativa
impose their
falsa
will,
para
a
lograr
false
su objetivo
narrative
por medio
in order to
de la
achieve their
violencia que
objectives
en el
through
poder
violence, and
aplasta
who,
las
once in
libertades,
power, crush
aplasta
freedoms,
los medios de comunicación,
silence
a la
the press
oposición
and
democrática,
democratic opposition,
viola los derechos humanos
violate
y da
human
inicio
rights,
al
and
control,
begin to control,
confiscación
to
y
confiscate,
expropiación
and
de
to
las empresas
expropriate
privadas,
private companies,
creando una burocracia
creating
corrupta
a corrupt
que
bureaucracy
destruye la
that
economía,
destroys the economy,
la sociedad y la
society,
moral pública.
and public morality.
El primer paso
The
para
first
todo
step
ello
for achieving
es
all
la
of this
construcción
is to build
de un
a
relato en el
narrative
que se
in order
miente,
to
se
lie,
engaña
to
y
deceive,
se
and
manipula.
to manipulate.
La ideología del odio de
The
clases
ideology
es
of
muy
class hatred
hábil
is very
en
skillful
trastocar la
at
realidad y
distorting
construir
reality
falsos
and
relatos.
building false narratives to manipulate.
La ideología del odio de
The
clases
ideology
es
of
muy
class hatred
hábil
is very
en
skillful
trastocar la
at
realidad y
distorting
construir
reality
falsos
and
relatos,
building false
pues
narratives,
utiliza el método
because it uses
totalitario
the
de repetir
totalitarian
ad
method of
infinitum
repeating a
una
lie
mentira,
ad infinitum,
como si hiciera
as
en
was
el
done
mundo
in the world
antes de la Segunda
before
Guerra
the
Mundial
Second
y
World
como se
War,
viene
and
haciendo
as is happening
nuevamente
again
porque
today,
el
because
totalitarismo se
totalitarianism
renueva, se
renews
presenta con otros
itself, presents
rostros,
itself with other
porque lo
faces,
que sigue siendo una grave amenaza
but remains
para
a
los
serious
países
threat
y
to
para el
countries
mundo.
and to the world.
El cínico relato se ve
The cynical
reforzado
narrative is
por el
reinforced
intervencionismo
by
en los
interventionism
asuntos
in the
internos de los
internal affairs
países,
of countries,
apoyando y difundiendo
supporting and spreading
falsedades
falsehoods
para
to
destruir
destroy
la
democracy
democracia
and
y eliminar
eliminate
la libertad.
freedom.
En el Perú
In Peru,
hemos superado
we have overcome
una fuerte, organizada y
strong,
persistente violencia
organized and
política que
persistent political
pretendía
violence
la
that
vuelta al
sought the
gobierno del
return of the
golpista.
coup plotters
Y desde el
government,
año
and
2024
since
se ha
2024,
logrado avanzar en el
progress has been made
restablecimiento
in
de la
restoring
estabilidad
stability
y
and
la
confidence,
confianza, razón por la cual
and This
La
is why
economía
the
peruana
Peruvian
logró crecer
economy managed
ese
to
año
grow this year by
3,3% y en el
3.3%.
presente año 2025
And
está
in the
superando
current
un
year,
crecimiento del
2025, is exceeding
3,5%,
3.5% growth.
previéndose que el
With
año
forecasts that in
2026 se
2026,
mantenga la tendencia
the
de la
trend of
expansión
economic growth will
económica.
continue.
El gobierno
The
garantiza
government
3
guarantees
años de
3 years
crecimiento
of
económico
economic growth,
encabezando las
being the leader
cifras en
in
Sudamérica.
South America.
La inflación que
Inflation
tenemos
is
es inferior al
below
2% anual.
2% annually.
Las reservas internacionales son
International
superiores
reserves
a los
amount
88
to more
mil
than
millones
$88
de
billion,
dólares. Y nuestra
and
moneda
our currency
se mantiene
remains
estable y
stable,
se
and
fortalece
it's
cada día
getting
más.
stronger every day.
Nuestra deuda externa
Our
es menor
external
al
debt is less than
32,2% del
32.2%
PBI,
of GDP,
una de las más
one of
bajas
the
de
lowest
América
in the
y del
Americas
mundo.
and in the world.
Nuestro déficit
And our
fiscal
fiscal
este
deficit
año
this
será
year
de
will be
2,2%
2.2% annually.
anual. Señora Presidenta de esta magna Asamblea,
Madam President of this
el 24
magnificent
de
General
octubre se
Assembly,
creó
on
las
October
Naciones
24th,
Unidas,
the UN was
después
created
de la
after World
Segunda Guerra
War II,
Mundial, cuando se logró
when one
derrotar a
of
uno
the
de los
greatest
mayores proyectos
totalitarian
políticos
political
totalitarios
projects
construido
built
bajo una
on an
ideología de
ideology
odio
of hatred,
que produjo el más grave genocidio
leading
en la
to the most
historia
serious
de la
genocide in
humanidad,
human history,
el
the
Holocausto,
Holocaust,
que
was
jamás
defeated.
que
And this is
jamás
something that we
debemos
must
olvidar.
never, I say never,
Esa nefasta
forget.
guerra causó la
That
muerte
dreadful war
de 60
caused the
millones
death
de
of
seres
60
humanos.
million human beings.
Toda ideología de odio,
All
el odio de
ideologies of
clases
hate,
y su
class
elevación
hatred,
a
and
principio y
its
motor de la
elevation as a
historia,
principle and
el odio
driver
racial,
of history,
el
racial hatred,
nacionalista, el
nationalist
odio
hatred,
religioso,
religious hatred,
étnico,
ethnic
el odio a
hatred,
las
hatred
mujeres,
against
entre
women,
otros,
amongst others,
son los
are the
causantes de los
causes
peores
for the
crímenes
worst
en la
crimes
historia
committed
humana.
in human history.
Las ideologías de odio
Ideologies of
construyen
hatred
relatos como verdades
build narratives
absolutas
as absolute
que
truths
instrumentalizan a las
that
personas y a
instrumentalize
los
people
pueblos.
and nations.
La constitución
The
política de mi
political
patria
constitution of my
afirma
homeland,
que la
Peru,
defensa
affirms that the
de la
defense
persona
of
humana
the
y su
individual
dignidad
and their
es el
dignity
fin
is
supremo
the
de
supreme
la
goal
sociedad
of
y del
society
Estado.
and of the state.
El Perú rechaza en
Peru,
consecuencia los dos
Rejects
principales
the two
relatos de odio
principal
en el
hate
mundo,
narratives in the world,
el odio de clases y
namely
el odio
class hatred
religioso,
and religious
origen
hatred.
de guerras.
These are the
y
origins
violencia
of
humana.
wars and
En el
inhumane
Perú
violence.
hemos sufrido
In Peru,
más de 20
we
años
suffered
de
for
un
more than
terrorismo
20 years
mesiánico,
from a
dogmático,
messianic,
violento y
dogmatic,
genocida
violent and
que le
genocidal
costó la vida a
terrorism
más de
that cost the
70,000
lives of more than
peruanos.
70,000
El
Peruvians.
terrorista odia las
The terrorist
elecciones y el
hates
derecho
elections
ciudadano
and the citizens'
a
right
elegir y a
to
ser
choose
elegido.
and to be
Cuando participa,
and to stand for
lo
election.
hace para
When
destruir
they
la democracia
participate, they do so
desde
to
adentro.
destroy democracy from
Sin
within.
embargo,
However,
el relato que se ha querido
the narrative
imponer
that
es
they
una
wanted
mentira
to
flagrante.
impose is a flagrant lie.
Las Fuerzas Armadas
The
y
armed forces
policiales
and the police
que defendieron la
who
vida
defended
y
the
la
life
libertad de
and
los
the freedom
peruanos
of Peruvians
son
are
acusados
now
de violar
accused
los
of
derechos
violating
humanos,
human rights.
convirtiéndose así
Thus,
los
the
héroes,
heroes who
defensores de la
defended
vida,
life,
la
democracy,
democracia y la
and freedom
libertad en
are
victimarios
turned into
y los
victimizers,
terroristas
and the
en
terrorists
víctimas.
are turned into
Así,
victims.
Los héroes que
In this way,
defendieron
the
la
heroes who
democracia
defended
son
democracy are being
perseguidos
persecuted
en
in
juicios que se
trials
prolongan
that drag on
por
for
décadas, mientras que
decades,
los
while the
terroristas
terrorists
son
are
indemnizados y
compensated
considerados
and considered
víctimas.
victims.
El mundo al revés. La ONU, Presidenta,
This is the world in
ha
reverse.
sido un hito
The
fundamental en el
UN
siglo
was a
XX.
fundamental milestone in the
Pero en el
20th
siglo
century,
XXI
but in the
debemos
21st
estar
century,
más
we must
atentos.
be more vigilant.
Es nuestro deber
It is our
impedir
duty
que el mundo se
to prevent the world
precipite
from
hacia
plunging
nuevos genocidios
into new
y nuevas
genocides
violencias.
and new violence.
No es aceptable en un mundo
It is not
civilizado
acceptable in a
que un
civilized
país
world that
invada
one country
a otro,
invade another
utilizando un
using
relato
a
falso
false narrative
para
to
justificar
justify
una guerra que
a
ataca
war,
principalmente
a
a
war
la
that first and
población.
foremost attacks the
No
civilian
es
population.
admisible la
It is
matanza
not
de
acceptable
civiles,
to slaughter
la
civilians,
captura de
to
centenares de
capture
jóvenes,
hundreds of young people,
mujeres y
women,
hasta niños
and even children,
para
and
utilizarlos
use
como
them
rehenes.
as hostages.
Vivimos ante la amenaza
We
del
live under the
crimen
threat of
internacional
international organized
organizado.
crime.
En el Perú,
In Peru,
la delincuencia internacional
international crime
dedicada
based
a la extorsión recurre a métodos terroristas
extortion
como los
uses
atentados
terrorist
con
methods such as
explosivos
bomb attacks
para someter
to submit
a los
citizens
ciudadanos.
to its will.
Estas organizaciones
These criminal
criminales
organizations
que utilizan armas de guerra
that
han
use
creado
weapons of war
mecanismos
have
financieros para
created
lavar
financial
el dinero
mechanisms to
manchado de
launder
sangre,
blood-stained money,
remitiendo grandes
sending
sumas
large
a
sums
sus países
back
de
to their
origen.
countries of origin.
Se pretende normalizar
They
esa
seek to
violencia que
normalize this
requiere
violence,
para su
which
derrota
requires, in
el
order to be defeated,
reconocimiento por la
recognition
ONU
by the
como
UN
organizaciones
as
terroristas
terrorist
y una
organizations
nueva legislación
and
nacional
new national
e
and international
internacional
legislation
que detenga su amenaza al
to
sistema
stop them being a
democrático
threat
y al
to the
desarrollo de
democratic
los
system
pueblos.
and to the development
Es
of
imperativo
peoples.
asimismo
It is also
actuar
imperative
contra el
that we act
narcotráfico y la
against
minería
drug
ilegal
trafficking and illegal
que
mining
destruye el medio
that
ambiente,
destroys the environment,
contaminan los ríos
pollutes
y
rivers,
condena
and
a los
condemns
pueblos
peoples
y a las
and
personas
individuals
a la
to
esclavitud.
slavery.
El crimen internacional
International
tiene
crime
sometidas
has subjected
a miles de
thousands
mujeres
of women
extraídas de sus
taken from their
hogares, de
home
sus países con
countries
violencia
through
y
violence and
engaños
deception
y explotadas
and
y privadas de su
being
libertad.
exploited and deprived of their freedom.
Señoras y señores,
Ladies and gentlemen,
vivimos momentos que nos
we are
recuerdan los
living through
episodios
times
más
that recall
oscuros de
the
nuestra
darkest
historia
chapters
moderna.
of our modern history,
Y el Perú
and
está
Peru
convencido
is
que el mundo no
convinced that
necesita
the
menos
world does
ONU,
not need less
sino
UN,
más y mejor
but
ONU.
more and a better
Una que
UN,
esté acorde con
one
los
that is in
tiempos
tune with the
en los
times,
que las ideologías de
in times
odio
in
que
which
tanto daño
ideologies of
causaron y
hatred that
causan
caused and
a la
cause
humanidad
so much damage to
se han
humanity
refugiado en la
have taken
mentira,
refuge in
en las
lies,
informaciones
in
falsas y
misinformation,
en la
and
penetración
which have
de las
penetrated
sociedades
democratic
democráticas.
societies.
El Perú, como miembro fundador,
Peru,
está
as a founding
comprometido con
member,
un
is
sistema
committed
multilateral
to an
abierto,
open multilateral
basado
system based on international
y
law
los principios
and
de
the
la Carta de
principles
Naciones
of the UN
Unidas.
Charter.
El pilar, el modelo
And we see in
La
the
ONU,
UN the
pero el
pillar
momento
of the model
de hacer un
that has
alto.
brought peace and prosperity.
Mirar lo que está pasando
But we
en el
have to
mundo a
look
nuestro
at what's
alrededor.
happening around us
En
in
este
the world.
momento estamos
At this
aquí,
time, as we're meeting
pero al otro
here,
lado del mundo
in other parts of the
están
world,
matando niños,
they are killing
niñas, personas
children,
inocentes.
girls, boys, innocent people.
La prosperidad al mundo debe ser
Prosperity
en ese trabajo responsable y unido.
will only come if we
Que
are
hoy debe
united and work
ingresar a un
together.
proceso de adecuación
And we have to
frente a las
adapt
nuevas
to
amenazas.
new threats.
Cada uno de nuestros países
Each of our countries
tiene el deber de
has the duty
contribuir al desarrollo
to make their
de
contribution
soluciones a los
towards finding
problemas
solutions to
que enfrentamos y
the
en
problems
eso
that we all
se
face
esfuerza
together.
mi país.
And my country is
Pero la
striving to do this.
interconexión de nuestras
But
sociedades
the
y
interconnection of
economías
our societies
hacen que
and
solo a
economies
través de la
means that it is only through international
internacional
cooperation
podamos resolver las
that we
crisis
can resolve
que
the
enfrentamos.
crises which we face.
Si no reformamos las
If we
Naciones
do not
Unidas,
reform the United
nuestra
Nations,
casa común,
our common home,
para devolverle
to restore
representatividad y efectividad a su
representativeness and
acción,
effectiveness to its
corremos
action,
el grave
then
riesgo
we
de ver
run the
desaparecer
very serious risk
uno de los
of seeing
instrumentos
one
más
of the most
preciados
precious
que
instruments
tiene
that the
la
international
comunidad
community
internacional
has for
para la
world
estabilidad del
stability
mundo. Por
disappearing.
ello,
For this reason, Peru supports the work of the UN 80 initiative, launched by the Secretary General, placing particular emphasis on the need to refocus the organization on its fundamental functions, bringing it closer to the needs of peoples, and at the same time making it more efficient. UN 80 must be an opportunity to strengthen multilateralism and ensure that the organization is better prepared to achieve its essential goals. This reform can only truly become fully effective if it is complemented by a transformation in UN governance that prevents institutional stalemates when it comes to decision-making, while ensuring its suitability. Ladies and gentlemen, in Peru, our government is working to meet its commitments, both to our citizens as well as to the international community, facing the threat of organized crime resulting from the collapse of tyrannical governments that led to migration to other countries. This is true of our country. From day one, my government has fought to restore governance in the country and to defeat polarization and violence. In Peru, there is full separation of powers, the rule of law, respect for freedom and human rights. My government is the most stable of the last 5 years, during which 5 presidents have succeeded one another. We are fighting for citizen security, facing crime that takes advantage of the rise in the price of gold and drug trafficking. We have achieved positive, verifiable results in these areas. We are working to strengthen human capital. We are fighting child malnutrition and anemia. And we are building schools and hospitals throughout the country, which has not been done in recent years. The priority is children, women, and the Peruvian family. We are modernizing the country's infrastructure, ports, airports, roads, bridges, designing an economy that is better connected to the world, as well as a firm policy for fighting corruption. Our goal is to guarantee free and impartial elections, defeating the attempt of a violent minority that seeks their failure. Ladies and gentlemen, the United Nations organization has always been present in the modern history of my country, particularly in its most difficult moments. Similarly to what is happening elsewhere in the world, and despite our efforts, Peru today finds its democratic institutions and the rule of law under attack by the polarization of politics, the cause and consequence of the return of extremist violence. We suffer from the scourge of transnational organized terrorist crime, which causes deaths, attacks, insecurity, and drug trafficking that destroys the social fabric. We face the threat of climate change that is destroying our Amazon, causing the melting of our glaciers, and putting our biodiversity at risk. We promote inclusive and sustainable growth in the context of opposing powers. But none of these problems is merely national, but global. This is why
que las
We
Naciones
need
Unidas
the United Nations
vuelva a ser
to
un
once
ágora del
again
diálogo y
be
la
a
cooperación.
forum for dialogue and
Deseo recordar el
cooperation.
legado del
I wish to
embajador
recall
Javier
the
Pérez de
legacy of
Cuellar,
Ambassador Javier
quien
Pérez de
logró
Cuellar,
ejercer
who
una acción
managed to do
relevante
relevant
de la
work in the
organización
organization
a pesar de la
despite the
Guerra
Cold
Fría.
War.
Con ese ejemplo
With that example in mind,
y en el apego de nuestra
and in
región
view
a
of
los
our region's
propósitos de la
adherence
Carta
to
y en
the
aras
purposes of the Charter,
de una mejor
and in order to
representación,
ensure better
creemos que es
representation,
tiempo de
we
que
believe it is
quien
time for the
ocupe la
next
próxima
Secretary
Secretaría
General
General provenga
to
de
come from Latin
Latinoamérica.
America.
Señoras
Ladies and
y
gentlemen,
señores, el Perú está comprometido en
Peru
lograr
is
que esta
committed to
Asamblea
ensuring
General
that this General
no
Assembly
sea una simple
this year is not
efemérides,
a mere commemoration,
sino la reafirmación
but
de
the
nuestro
reaffirmation
compromiso
of our commitment
hacia una acción
to
colectiva
collective action
que
that
revitalice
will
a las Naciones
revitalize the
Unidas
United
como
Nations as
herramienta
a
que
tool
apoye
that
la
supports
paz
peace
y la unidad
and
global,
global
así
unity
como el
as well
desarrollo.
as development.
Tenemos que ser firmes
We must
en la
stand
verdad
firm
frente a los relatos
in
que
the
la
truth, in the
escamotean,
face of
la
narratives that try to conceal
pervierten
it,
o
pervert
mienten
it, or
abiertamente
openly
con el fin
lie
de
in
ocultar
order to hide agendas
agendas que no
that do not
corresponden a nuestro
correspond
tiempo
to our
y
time,
mucho menos
much less
al
to the
destino de la
destiny
humanidad.
of humanity.
Por ello,
For this reason,
es imperativo
it is
fortalecer
essential
la verdad
that we
frente a los
strengthen
relatos
truth against
basados
narratives
en
that
el
are based
odio,
on
la
hatred,
mentira
the
repetida que
lie
busca
repeated
imponerse
that seeks to
y que
impose
solo
itself and
engendra
only
destrucción.
leads to destruction.
Pese a todos los
But despite
obstáculos,
all of these
la
obstacles,
verdad
truth
se abre
will
paso
find a
y
way,
nos hace
and
libres.
truth will set us free.
Paz
Peace
y unidad
and
para el
unity
Perú y el
for
mundo.
Peru and for the
Buenas
world,
huchas del planeta.
for all those on the
Kuskayan
planet.
Yankasun. Ama Chiknikuspa. Ama Yuyakuspa. Buscando el desarrollo de nuestro pueblo.
Let us seek the
Señoras,
development of our
presidentes y
peoples,
presidentes del mundo.
presidents of the world.
Juntos trabajemos
Together, let us work together
sin odiarnos,
without hating one
queriéndonos,
another.
procurando el desarrollo
Let us
de
work
nuestros
for the
pueblos.
development of our peoples.
Sí a la vida,
Yes to
no a la
life,
violencia
no to
y no a la
violence,
guerra.
and no
Muchas
to
gracias.
war. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Peru.
Karunia yang diberikan oleh Yang Maha Kuasa kepada kita sungguh sangat besar dan sungguh sangat beragam. Namun, tengah segala karunia tersebut, kita pun harus berani untuk menjadi bangsa yang berani, bangsa yang tidak takut tantangan, bangsa yang tidak takut rintangan, bangsa yang tidak takut ancaman.
I would highly recommend monday.com because it can streamline your operations. EnTech Philippines is an environmental services provider to over 10,000 doors in the Philippines.
And what we like the best about Monday, it's challenged us to look at what is it that we really need. We were able to really map everything out, come up with a workflow. We're able to really just input all the information, review everything on the spot whenever we need it, wherever we need it, and make better decisions.
Halo semusik, kita dari Delantis. Kita mau bawain lagu pertama kita, judulnya Lampu Merah, menceritakan tentang, sebenarnya kalau personally tentang waktu itu gue bikin skripsi, gak kelar-kelar. Tapi message dari lagu ini sebenarnya gak apa-apa stuck di sebuah fase dalam kehidupan. Semua orang pasti ngerasain itu dan ini cuma sementara. Oke.